welcome to our last day together here. I want to point out that I'm wearing a Goofy shirt because apparently a few weeks ago it was Goofy's 88th birthday. So if you ever see Goofy around, offer him a chair or something. He's 88. I also am noticing that a few of our people here, I don't think they've changed all week at camp. Have you even taken showers? I mean, if you were at Chapel Rock, your cabin counselor would be all over this. It would be problematic. Well, today, though, we find ourselves still in, I guess, Egypt. And we've already heard from Ben. And in this time where we're kind of hearing like a conclusion of Joseph's story, of the saga, of this amazing narrative that we have. And I'm curious what you think about it. I mean, at the end of all of this, I was just thinking that, Joseph had this opportunity to get total revenge on everyone. And yet, I mean, this has such a good ending, such an ending of his family coming back together. What are y'all's thoughts?
So one of my favorite things about this story is at the very end of the story, like we've been talking about, like, Joseph's such a kind soul. Like, he's such a kind person. Like, whenever he had the chance, he always took the high road. He always showed that he had the strength to keep going even when it was hard. And I think that the very end of this kind of the soul was the day, it was the theme of the day. And I think that in the story you can really see that he does bear his soul, and it's just that pure kindness, which was talked about earlier, was he really loved his family and really I don't know if he forgave them or not, but I think that that's a really hard thing to do, is to love someone who's done you wrong. And I was curious if anybody here had stories of where they bared their soul in such a way, or where they had to kind of go through an ordeal where they took the high road in a similar notion.
I don't have a story very similar to that, but when I did my service here in the Episcopal Service Corps, one of our housemates was going through a rough patch with their husband and decided they separated for a year, and it got to be kind of hairy because there was a lot of tension between the two of them, and a lot of the stories we were hearing from the person who's living in our house did not reflect the other person in a very nice light. And so I think when they did eventually get back together, everything's good. They're very happy, very lovely couple. They have a cat now. But I think the initial reintroduction of his husband to us was hard because we had so much love for our housemate and we wanted him to be safe and happy, that there was kind of, how Joseph gives these trials almost to his brothers to make them prove that they've grown as people and they're not going to do what they did again when they find out that Joseph is, the vizier. I think we kind of did that in a similar way with the husband because we wanted to make sure that he was a good choice for our friend who we cared about very much. And I think it's important to note that it may seem weird and uncharacteristic that Joseph was, making his brothers do all these weird things to prove that they were better people. But I think it's a really common human characteristic to protect us. But I think it also shows that Joseph was willing to give his family a second chance.
Yeah, I think it'd be really hard to put yourself in a position where you would have to willingly go back to a situation that was so bad in the first place. I think that would be really hard.
Well, I think it's important to note that Joseph wasn't putting himself in the same situation. He wasn't going back to people that were going to abuse him and hurt him and harm him. He was going back to people who had had a huge change of heart, and he also wasn't the same 17 or 16-year-old boy. He had learned a lot and grown a lot and come into his own power and kindness. So, yeah, I think,
When
go,
I
Brad.
think that Allie has a really big point there of power. Like, I mean, it's also the fact that when the brothers did all these horrible things to Joseph, Joseph was just this little kid, this 17-year-old that, yeah, I mean, didn't have that ability to always stand up for himself. And then we come to this, and the Pharaoh told Joseph that the only thing Joseph didn't get a command was the throne itself. That, like, Joseph is like one of the most powerful people in the world. And I do think that actually, I think that plays a lot into this story of it's probably easier to forgive your brothers when you have the power to have them executed if you wanted to, or to deny them food, or to do whatever you want.
Or if you're not being, you're not in the position where you can be taken advantage of over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I think it also gives us an important insight into what Joseph chooses to do now that he does have power, and being careful about how he uses that power now, because he doesn't have to, be nice to his family, but he chooses to do so, and he's capable of that because he has power, and he chooses kindness instead of revenge. And that's when you have power, you have to be careful, because you have power to hurt people as well as help people.
Like that power, with that power, you have responsibility.
Exactly.
great power comes great responsibility.
Just like
Come on, Brad,
Spider-Man.
get the quote right.
I kind of see a similarity here. We haven't really mentioned the dream coat or the dress in a while. But like Joseph is definitely living the coat or the dress. It's described as his princess dress, essentially. And in fact, now he's more powerful than a princess. So while who knows where the coat is at this point in the story, part of me wonders, what is Joseph wearing as he's dealing with all these situations, and how is he carrying himself?
Yeah, I mean, I know that this morning Ben talked about how, Joseph gets on all of his makeup and such before he goes out, and I just imagine, especially then, like you see these things in museums where you see people of ancient Egypt where they wore all sorts of paintings on their faces and all sorts of jewels. And I wonder what Joseph looked like, because I bet it kind of put that princess dress to shame.
Probably.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
I think that it's hard to have soul in times when sometimes we're just tired. Sometimes we're just exhausted and done with living the world, whether it's because we've stayed inside for 3 months, or it feels like 10 years, or maybe it's because we're tired of normal life where we go to school every single day, and it becomes monotonous, and it becomes the same over and over and over again. But it's hard to continue to have and to have your soul out there, to bear it, and to treat people as you want to be treated, and as God wants them to be treated.
Yeah. I think these four, it's four, right? 4 concepts: sass, style, soul, and snags. They all kind of feed each other in a cycle, for the most part. And I think when we're tired, we need to rely on our sass and our resilience and our learning experiences from those snags that we all seem to come across periodically, because how would we grow as people if we didn't have those? To feed our soul and our style. so that way we can keep moving forward and growing and becoming the people that God wants us to be and who we should be, like Joseph.
Something too I noticed was like, Joseph here, he knew what his soul was from the very get-go. Like, we knew that he was good at reading dreams. We knew that he was a kind person since the start of all of this. I think for a lot of people, like, their biggest problem is that they don't really know who they are. They don't know what they're good at. And I think that a lot of times those snags can really help you figure that out too.
I think sometimes people think that they're not good at anything. And I think that everyone is good at something. There's always something out there that kind of calls to us. And so, and it may be the same thing all of our lives, or it might change a lot. But whether it's drawing or math or reading or figuring out languages, I think that we have to remember that each one of us has something inside us that is worth bearing, that is worth being out. I don't know about you, but I feel kind of sad as we're leaving today and leaving camp, because this journey's become part of me. This journey that Joseph took feels like it's inside me. What about you?
I would say so. I think it's a very relatable story, to a degree.
Yes, I eagerly await my appointment to Egypt's Grand Vizier position.
You'll make a great vizier, Zach.
I need to brush up on my Arabic.
Yeah, no, I definitely think there's an element to the story for anybody, no matter where you are, because, this story, it's only a couple pages, but it covered, an entire lifetime. So you could be anywhere in that story.
Well, and I know that we have, we're at camp right now at the beginning of the summer, but we still have a lot of summer left. And as we leave here, I'm excited about all the adventures that I'm going to go on and all of you are going to go on, and that all the various things you'll do, whether or not you're leaving your home and having an adventure out in the wilderness, or you're staying at home and you're having an adventure on a video game or in your imagination or in a book. I'm just amazed. I'm amazed at where we can go. And where we can find those snags in life, and then have the sass to be resilient through them, and the style not to take it out on others, and then the soul to, in the end, be true to ourselves and true to God. Yeah. I'm glad you joined us for this week. Any last words of wisdom from these amazing young adults to all of those campers out there?
Don't lose your dream coat.
Don't lose your dream coat.
Adventure is out there.
And if you do lose it, go looking for it.
There you go.
And know that each one of you has a dream coat or a princess dress. Each one of you has that, and it may not be a piece of clothing, but it's inside you. You already shine like the embroidery on that coat, on that dress. Well, it's time to say goodnight for one last time. So we hope and pray that you've had a wonderful camp experience here at Chapel Rock, and that maybe next year we might see you in person. So goodbye.